Sex is the life force energy that runs through us all. The link between sex, creativity, and the sense of aliveness is strong. Can you use sexual energy for your spiritual evolution? Or perhaps for emotional healing? Is it even possible? Clinical sexologist Dr. Martha Tara Lee will explore all these and more on the Eros Evolution Show here on OMTimes Radio and TV.
Hello, and welcome to Eros Evolution. This is Martha, your host, and I have with me a guest. Her name is Valentina Tudose. Is a transformational relationship coach and clinical hypnotherapist based in Hong Kong. She's passionate about educating and empowering her clients to communicate effectively, learn more about themselves, and to create positive, deep, meaningful relationships with others. So in her coaching and talks, she focuses on teaching communication, relationship, and intimacy skills, and provides strategies for conflict resolution and emotional management. So her clients will range from teenagers looking for their sense of identity to young adults exploring first relationships, singles of any age looking for real love, and couples wanting to enhance their relationship or struggling with lack of intimacy, breakups, or infidelity. She believes educating people of any age on how to love themselves and others is a fundamental aspect of modern life. And so she's often giving lectures around sex, consent, effective communication, and the intricacies of romantic relationships. She's actually a popular presence in many local, that's Hong Kong, and a global publication. She writes a sex column in Marie Claire magazine, dating and relationship columns in Hong Kong Living and Honeycombers, and is often interviewed in South China Morning Post and various podcasts and RT Hong Kong. So you can find her at The Real Queen Maker on Instagram, and also her name, Valentina Tudose. So look for her on Facebook, LinkedIn. So yeah, today's title is What's Love Got to Do with It? So happy Valentine's Day to everybody, and happy Valentine's Day to Valentina.
Happy Valentine's Day. Good morning, good evening, everyone. I hope you had an amazing time if you're already in Asia.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about the name Valentina, right? Because is it like an offshoot
It
of
is my real
Valentine?
name, believe it or not. Yes, it is definitely my real name. And to me, the way I look at it now, obviously when I was born, the job of a relationship coach didn't exist, especially because I was born in Romania a long time ago. So it had nothing to do with this kind of work, but I think I was destined to be working in the service of Eros.
Yeah, and to be a queen maker.
Well, that is something that came a little bit later, and the whole nickname, my whole Instagram ID is really because I specialized in working with women. I'm passionate about helping women find the confidence and self-love, because I've been on this journey of discovering how to love myself more. So just to give it a little background, I called my company Happy Ever After when I decided to become a coach, because I think so much of our ideas about love come from fairy tales and Disney movies and all this stuff that is somehow programming us to believe that we should all look for Prince Charming. So I thought, well, yeah, but I don't really want to be a princess. I think even though in the fairy tales the queens don't have a good name, I think the queen is really the ultimate expression of a woman's femininity and personality and identity. I'm so sorry about these drilling noises. I live in a building where they've decided to do some improvements. If you can hear it, my apologies.
Yeah, it's okay. I don't hear it. So yes, I love what you're saying about princess and queens and all that, because I also went on a journey of really growing myself from this princess entitlement that I myself and I think some of my clients have, to really stepping into my power and claiming the queen. So the thing about princesses is that they don't have any responsibilities. They just look pretty, enjoy themselves. That's the perception, and wait for Prince Charming to come and rescue them. Whereas when you're queen, you can be a queen of a castle or you can be a queen of a kingdom. So I choose to believe that I want to have my own kingdom, my own empire, and to create a legacy. So my third book is actually called From Princess to Queen. So for those of you who are interested, you can check it out on Amazon. So I'm very curious about your journey, your evolution, stepping into this role of supporting your clients, especially women. So tell me more about how you got into this.
It's kind of a funny story, because this is actually my third career. I first qualified to be a translator and a conference interpreter, but I quit that relatively quickly, not because I didn't like what I was doing. I loved it, but somehow the universe guided me into advertising. So I had a career in advertising for almost 2 decades, which brought me in contact with a lot of people, taught me a lot of things about psychology, about how to connect with people, how to really get your message across, very much in the space of communication. And I enjoyed it. It made me travel all over the world and so on. So it definitely helped my personal journey of becoming more empowered and feeling good about myself. And then at one point, it was literally in a conversation with my colleagues, with my boss, that somehow we were very, very happy in that moment as a team. And someone asked, what would we all do if we didn't have this job that we love so much? And for a very strange reason, I just said, I think I would like to be a relationship coach. And I don't know about the rest of the people that were in that group, but it really shocked me, because I was like, whoa, okay, where did that come from? I don't even know if this thing exists. I don't even know if you can be a relationship coach, but it felt like a download, if you know what I mean. Since this show is about spirituality, it was really like, I kind of said the words that discovered my purpose. There was a little bit of a backstory to that, which may be also funny to share. I moved to Hong Kong at the age of 30. In fact, I didn't know anybody here. I moved with my boyfriend at the time. And what I noticed about Hong Kong, I don't know if this is the case in Singapore or wherever our listeners are, but Hong Kong is a very transient place. There's always people coming and going. Everybody is from somewhere else, at least in, the kind of expat community that I was planted in when I arrived. And I had this distinct feeling when a 30-year-old woman together with some other 30-year-olds hang out in bars or restaurants, we had a lot of guys coming to chat to us. And all these guys would start the conversation with the rather boring question, where are you from? Which is legitimate. I understand it makes sense in a place that is so cosmopolitan, but it felt lazy to me. It felt really annoying, because it's not a really good introduction. If you really, even now, from the perspective of someone who's worked with flirting and dating strategies, is so lame. I still roll my eyes really when people start off with that, just because I think if you really want to attract someone's interest, the best way to flirt is not to ask the most obvious question. Sure, I don't look Asian, so obviously I must be from somewhere else, right? Anyway, so this used to annoy me, and I thought, I should have a flirting school. Clearly, the population around here is lacking a little bit in terms of flirting skills, and maybe I should just set up a flirting skill. But from a flirting skill school, but for many reasons, probably to do with the fact that I wasn't ready for this, and the universe kind of redirected me towards going back into advertising. It didn't happen at the time, but about 10 years later, the message came loud and clear from the universe that I needed to do this, that this would make me happy. And that's kind of how the journey started. And I think the motivation was also to do with the fact that a lot of amazing women that I knew I could see that they felt a little bit like the princess, what I call now the passive, powerless princess. The person who just sits around with with a lot of desire for a relationship, but with no action, no strategy, no I'm going to go out there and find something that I want. And what I've noticed now after 8 years of doing this job is that the pattern that seems to be at play with a lot of my clients is they don't actually know exactly what they're looking for. And for me, if you don't know what you're looking for, you're not going to find it. It's impossible to find something that you don't have clarity about. As I say to my clients, look, if you've never seen a pair of glasses in your whole life, and suddenly I asked you, can you help me find my glasses? You could be looking straight at the glasses that were sitting on my nose, and you would still not be able to recognize that those were glasses, right? So I think
Yes.
the same with true love. If you don't really know what true love feels and looks like, it's going to be very hard to find it. And then, of course, if you're not actually healed and ready, and you haven't done the work on yourself, it's going to be hard. So I did a lot of that work on myself so that I can now recognize what is love for me and what do I really want in a partner.
That's beautiful. So, what is love? If someone who doesn't know what love is, how would you explain it to them?
For me, love is actually the biggest lesson we are here to learn. And it really is a process of discovering ourselves through others. I know it sounds very unromantic when I put it that way, because I think a lot of people's ideas about love is this magical feeling that we just experience once we find our other half. But I really don't believe in that. I think, yes, of course, it is an emotion. It is a bond that we experience with another person, that we are connected to someone else. But at the same time, I think there is a very um, rational part to love. We are essentially interdependent creatures. We need to feel loved, to feel special, to feel chosen, to feel like we matter. And I think love gives us meaning. So finding someone who can see us for who we truly are, even though we don't actually know who we truly are, is the way to really discover this whole sense of identity that we have. So I don't think there is one love of our life. I don't think there is one soulmate. I think every person who comes into our life teaches us something very meaningful about life in general and about ourselves.
Yeah, that I agree with you. For me, like you said, growing up, I would associate love with those goosebump feelings, those romantic, mystical sensations that you experience with that one special person. And then as I grew up, then I realized we can have connections with several people. And also, as I grew older, realized that I was attracting a lot of toxic, dramatic, passionate relationships. And that by itself wasn't sustainable and it wasn't healthy. So I call it something along the lines of addiction to drama.
Mm.
We think drama is passion and drama is love, when in reality we can reframe that. So for me now, I think of love as the unconditional love that I experienced from my parents. They very thanklessly do all the things, acts of service to show me how much they provide and care and love me. And a lot of time it is irregardless of what you're feeling. So I now think love as a decision is a choice, and it's very much a commitment. So
Definitely.
what I see with my clients, I'm sure you see this also with them, is that they say they fall out of love. They're not in love with that person anymore, even though they love that person. They're not in love, and so then they think that they are just not meant to be. Suddenly, from meant to be is not meant to be. So, do you have this kind of clients, and how do you work with them?
A lot, yeah, of course. I think, again, I'm sorry, I think this is something to do with Disney, and the mindset that was created around romance and lust as being love. People think that all you need is love, right? All these myths around love, that all you need is love, that love is in the air. Love is indeed in the air, but love is there to teach you a lesson, not to kind of, I don't know, take you to the moon and back. So I think this tendency that we have in our romantic society, like, we live in the era of romanticism, as Alain de Botton says, and I love his way of looking at love. The romantics really have created all these very interesting but not very helpful, not very productive ideas and ideals for love. I think you're right. For me, love is the perfect to find happiness in a long-term relationship. You really need to strike the perfect balance between chemistry and compatibility. And the chemistry is something that is given, is this lust and desire that we feel because it's in our genes pretty much. We're biologically programmed to mate, to find partners that we become physically and emotionally bonded or tied up, attached, right? But we also know that in order to this physiological bond that we experience through chemistry is not meant to be for life. We're not naturally monogamous creatures, not in the sense of pair bonding forever. So once that part becomes a little bit diluted and the sexual attraction and chemistry becomes less potent on a hormonal level, then what we're left with is the compatibility side. And the compatibility really comes from a combination of values, like seeing the world through a similar lens, so to speak, having the same values, believing in the same things, understanding what it is that we need to be happy, and being able to communicate those needs and requirements to our partners in a way that sustains the relationship as opposed to destroys the relationship. So it is definitely, I think the idea of a couple is a constant work in progress, like a project that you have together, like a business almost. But I don't want to strip it of all the emotional beauty of being in a loving relationship, but you do have to work on it. I think the other myth that I see a lot with my clients is that, oh, now I'm married, I'm done, now I don't have to put any effort into it, I just cruise for the rest of my life, which is, in my opinion, one of the biggest pitfalls of this mindset that we have around love, that we don't have to work on it. If we have to work on it, it's not love.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it comes from that whole association of sex should be spontaneous, and therefore it should be natural, and therefore love should be natural. And so people don't want to put in the work, they don't want to put in the sacrifice. So I do have a question for you. Like, what do you think of people who said, like, I had a failed relationship or failed marriage? Is there some other word that we can reframe it so that it's not like, we say failed as in it's over? Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. I like to reframe the word failure to the word lesson. I like to call, actually, I think last week I did a short video on Instagram about the biggest lesson that I learned from my so-called failed relationships. I actually see these relationships that didn't work as wonderful gifts. And for me personally, the biggest lesson that I've learned from those relationships that didn't work was that you really need to say no to those things that you do not want in your life, that don't work for you, so that you can actually open the door and give yourself the ability to say yes to what you really want. You were talking just a few moments ago about attracting drama and toxicity. Well, I'm guessing, I'm going to take a wild guess here, that until you learned that you needed to put boundaries around those kind of people and those kind of relationships, you were not really able to find the kind of partners that work for you.
Mm. And I also think that when we are not confident and still finding ourselves, we're just grateful, for anybody who shows us any attention. So we just take the first person who comes along. But in my case, I actually married two of my soulmates. They just felt right. They felt like home. But what happened with both instances is that they didn't take accountability for themselves, and they really uh, were more interested in blaming people and not fulfilling their promises to me and also to themselves. So it was really impossible to work with someone and be on that life journey with them if they're not going to take accountability for their own actions. So yeah, despite the attraction, the connection, the past lives that I must have had with them, I just couldn't continue in those relationships. So I think the lesson there for me is we just can't listen to just our heart. We have to also use our mind to make a decision about whether a relationship is working for us.
Exactly. And the way to, for me, it is also about looking at what gifts that person has given you. You know, the gift of self-knowledge. You've become a lot more aware of what you absolutely must have in a relationship for it to function. You've learned a lesson that just because someone feels right, it doesn't mean they're going to be your soulmate for life, and that, you know, you're happily ever after, this whole idea that we have, can actually happen, but it doesn't have to happen with one person. You can be happy for your whole life if you learn from these experiences and don't repeat the same patterns. Because I don't like to call them mistakes. To me, a
Yeah.
mistake is once if you make a mistake once, that is wonderful. If you look back and learn your lesson, if you keep repeating that mistake, you're caught up in a pattern that you need to break. And when you break that, you've learned the lesson the harder way. Because I think Oprah said this once, you know, the universe keeps giving you the same lesson in a different pair of pants
Mm.
if you don't learn the lesson.
Correct. Life has a way of presenting the same lessons until we learn it.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of it. You know, I think the universe knows best what we need. We just need to figure out what the lesson is in every experience. And I'm still learning exactly how my previous relationships, the successful ones and the so-called fail ones, or the ones that ended when they needed to end, it was something that really helped me discover different aspects of myself. So I'm very, very grateful to those partners.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess moving along to sex, do you think it's possible for couples to be in sexless relationships? What do you see is the role of sex?
For me, sex is the relationship glue. It really keeps the connection, the intimacy uh, alive during a relationship. But I think each couple, there isn't such a thing as a normal sex life, in my opinion. Whatever normal means, I don't know. It's not something that we can quantify, at least in. I know we can look statistically at how often people are having sex in a particular given time, but I don't think that is in any way an indication of their sexual satisfaction or their happiness in their relationship. Knowing from my experience that a lot of women very often engage in sex with their long-term partner because they feel they should, that it's kind of a part of the marriage contract, and you should have sex with your partner either because you want to keep him happy so that he doesn't stray, or because otherwise it's somehow causing you different problems. So it's more, I think very often sex is used as a strategy to prevent infidelity, and not enough a strategy for creating intimacy, connection, and vulnerability. So is it possible to have love and no sex? Yes. But is it possible to have a successful, happy long-term relationship? Maybe. I would say, if both partners have a low sex drive, and or maybe, you know, they have some sort of illness or issues, I think it is possible. However, I would also like to bring into question the definition of sex. I think for many people, and I know you see this probably every day of your life, um, at least that's my experience with my clients, people think that sex must be penetration. And if we haven't, actually very often my clients who are dating tell me, oh, I went out on a date and I'm so happy that we didn't have sex, we did everything else but we didn't have sex. I'm like, what does everything else mean? Well, you know, we didn't have penetration. I'm like, excuse me, but everything else is sex. In my opinion, the definition of sex is so much broader. than simply looking at penis and vagina sex. That's one way of having sex, but it's not definitely by far, not the only way you can have sex. So actually, I have a lot of clients who are complaining that they haven't had sex for a very long time. And my work with them is, of course, go to the doctor, check your hormone levels and all that, but also think about what is your definition of sex? What are your expectations about sex? Discuss with your partner what is an ideal sex life for them, because we make a lot of assumptions around that. And we look at all these programs in the society that says, oh, you have to have penetrative sex 3 times a week to be normal. I don't want to be normal.
Yeah, I agree with you, all the points that you just said. There are people who do view having sex in a relationship as a chore, duty, a way to please their partner, to keep their partner, to prevent them from straying. And I would like to invite them to reframe sex as something that is fun, funny, adventurous, creative, playful, and mutual. When we give
Absolutely.
away our power. When we give away our power and it becomes for them kind of a thing, then naturally over time, resentment will build up. And it may start off as a thought, and then it becomes an attitude around it. And the body starts to respond in accordance to the way we think and frame sex to be. And we essentially are manifesting our reality. So body listens to what the mind is telling. And so if you keep thinking of it as something that is laborious, something that is not wanted, a body will start to shut down. So it's really important to see as mutual, because a lot of people actually take pride in giving pleasure to their partner. So in order to give, you need to be willing to receive. But if you just see it as something that you are just absorbing, something that you're just tolerating, you're not going to be able to give your partner the kind of the gift of giving that they would love to have. So I definitely agree with you about the definition of sex as well. Okay, so now we have a bit of a commercial break, and we'll be right back.
OMTimes TV. Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. OMTimes Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious